Hey everybody, I'm back this month with another painting process, and this month we just went straight samurai action. Um, Robots and samurais sound like a weird idea, but it turns out they're pretty awesome. So, starting this out, we knew we wanted just like a badass samurai in a cool snowy environment. Initially I was thinking maybe we could do some like cool cherry blossom trees or bamboo. I ended up going the bamboo route, and I started this with a really simple 3D block-in. So I had that rough sketch, and then I decided to just throw in like a real quick 3D character and draw on top of that. And then you saw right there I put in that photo really quick, and all that is me basically getting a color palette, right? Because I put it in there and then just started painting on top of it. So another thing that was fun with this painting is I used a couple of different programs. So that first one, I started out in Procreate, and then I moved over to Infinite Painter. And one thing that Infinite Painter has that's really cool is it's like a lasso, but you can fill with like a grunge texture, and it auto fills. So you basically just draw like circles and shapes around whatever you're making, and it automatically fills it, which is super cool. So that's where I'm at right now, and it's a good way to block in values and like really quick shapes and get some texture in there without caring too much, because sometimes it's easy when you have like a smaller brush or just like a regular plain brush to get in there and like noodle too much. So, and it's good to also retain like the edge quality, right? So you get like nice crispy edges, and then you can go back later and soften stuff out. So this is an attempt. I was thinking like maybe it'd be cool if it was really snowy, but it ends up kind of feeling a little claustrophobic at the end of this, so I end up deleting a lot of this part right here. But that's the beauty of digital paint, is you can just explore all of these different ideas, and you don't really lose anything. You know, if I was doing this like I used to in oils, man, that would be some serious trouble. I have to start all over. So although this was cool, I found like this the watercolor brushes in Infinite Painter are pretty badass. So they like bleed and actually kind of function like they're wet, which is cool. And it just gives it like a really, I guess like a neat sort of feeling. I want to do something later with like a whole watercolor painting. I think it'd be really cool, especially if I go, with this kind of samurai theme for anything else that I'm doing myself. Because I just feel like samurai, Japanese culture, and all that go really well with like, obviously, ink, because that was a lot of ink, like wood block printing and all that stuff is traditionally Japanese, but just like any sort of like watercolor brush, I feel like looks pretty cool too. So, all right, so at this point I've decided like, all right, we're sticking with bamboo. And I'm trying to get like a cool, like a cool lighting situation happening. I didn't want it to be like super bright, and I started out too bright. So one thing that's cool about, once again, with digital stuff is you can darken it down. And right now I'm thinking dark against light checkerboard kind of a thing, right? I want the shapes behind my main dude to be lighter, and the shapes on the ground to be a little lighter because he's darker. And anywhere there's dark, I want light behind it. If it's light, I want dark behind it. And that way I can maintain like a really solid silhouette for my guy. Because he's got a kind of a weird shape, right? He's got this, really round hat. And his armor and stuff is kind of long and like a robe. So you lose a lot of the silhouette and like the legs and stuff. So that's another reason I kind of have his arms posed the way that I do, so that way you can get the sword and the hand in there to read really well, and it's easy to see. Another thing about this art and the art that I do for 99 Lives is that most of the time I have to be thinking that this can be cropped on the sides and turned into a square, because a lot of times the album covers are square, and then they also like to have a 16:9 version for like different animation purposes and things. So it can be a little tricky composition wise to nail all that down. All right, so I'm thinking now, like, maybe I'll add like a bigger shrine building in the background instead of just the bamboo forest. But it kind of took away from what I was trying to achieve. So I ended up undoing that, and I put in some cool banners and flags, and I'm going to put some like dead enemies on the ground that he's just wrecked. And I use the same 3D app to do that. I think it's called Magic Pose or something. It's on the iPad. So it's only, it might be free, it might not even cost. But between that and Infinite Painter and Procreate, it's only like $20 for all three of those. So if you're interested in getting into this stuff, or if you do it already, definitely check out those other apps because they're great. One more that I would mention that's awesome, I didn't use it in this situation, but it's Handy. It's called Handy, and it's basically an app where you can pose 3D hands and heads and light them. So that is also an excellent resource. I don't know if I've mentioned that before in any of these. So I've got a few different layers going on here of like smoke and stuff, and then I've got kind of this, like, I imagined him being surrounded by these enemies, right? And just jacks them all up, and there's this like circular trail of blood from him spinning around and like just destroying these dudes. And then he ends up with this one robot's head in his hands, and right now he's thinking like, just bring it on. That's like the whole vibe that I'm going for with this piece. So hopefully that translates a little bit and you guys feel that too. I want him to feel like super aggressive. So yeah, this is a super fun piece to make. I really love the armor that samurais had. There's like a really cool mix sometimes between metals, cloth, potentially wood a lot of the times too. It's pretty neat. So you can get a lot of textures in there and stuff too in your paintings. So at the end of this, I'm going to desaturate it quite a bit, because a lot of times when I paint, I overdo it. So I like to rein it back in at the end and really concentrate on just a limited palette. Especially in this case, I always use a lot of pink with 99Lives, and I like to keep make sure that, you know, there's always a robot with headphones. There's always one of those in every painting. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and thanks for hanging out with me for a little bit.